So around 2011, 2012, when Sample Magic was really starting to gain a foothold in the pro audio space, we started seeing hardware, software manufacturers, DAWs coming to us and asking if they could have our sounds, our synth sounds, our presets and drum hits in their DAW. So a large part of our business started to become licensing our IP, exclusively creating material for DAWs for other ventures, essentially. And we had a period where I would say probably just under half of our time was spent creating for other brands. And that was a beautiful experience. I was starting to sort of, I think when you're in a large scale e-commerce operation, it can be very difficult to retain your creative focus because it starts to become more about sales and marketing and about back end than it does about the creativity. Any business that scales quickly, the business logistics and the business administration start to take center stage. And I found that licensing was an incredibly creative way to negate that fatigue that was coming out of running this large scale content operation. And this is me just being brutally honest. And, you know, I was a multi-DAW user. I used a bunch of different plugins. I was a Steinberg Cubase user since the Atari ST days. I was an Ableton user. We started doing partnerships with all these DAWs where we started making exclusive sounds for them. We were in iOS apps. We were in some of the most well-sold iOS apps of all time. We worked with like Shutterstock type audio libraries to create bespoke sounds. We made bespoke sounds for hardware synthesizers. To this day, I still program and make sounds for a lot of the hardware synthesizers that Korg manufacture, Roland, many in between, Arturia, Akai. We worked with pretty much every brand in pro audio, and and the beautiful thing about this, of course, was Sample Magic with its strong branding and material aspiration was co-branded and co-promoted alongside these very famous, very enduring brands. It was fantastic for us because on one hand, the licensing was in itself generating residual royalty revenue, but we were also seeing a lift in our own user base, our own customer base, with these cross-promotional activities that a lot of these folks were doing. So, you know, Native Instruments, for instance, would do a joint marketing email, and we would suddenly see a lift of, 20,000 more customers coming to the site in a day. And that was a really beautiful moment. That was a tangential moment for us. It really drove home our status, if you want, within pro audio. It really made us aware and the wider world aware of who we were and what we were doing and how important it was to creators and our overall mission statement to enable better creation. It really brought that message across. The challenge it created was ensuring that everybody that was creating with us, for us, with our brand, partnering with our brand, was being accounted to properly, that we could keep up with the sheer number of promotions and licenses and releases we had going on. And this is where I think the business administration side, and it's the most fucking unsexy thing ever about any business, to start thinking about the logistics of royalty payments and your back end and visibility and stuff like that, and all these things that we never thought about when we first started out. Like I say, we didn't build our company specifically to get to the size that it did. All this stuff came sharply into focus, and I remember spending a huge amount of time sitting with business managers and bookkeepers and looking at ways in which we could manage this inventory of outgoing products that were being used in so many different ways and generating revenue in so many different ways. It was a huge job. We had, all these releases, but also all these licenses and all these co-branding things going on, all of which were spread across multiple producers, maybe 150 to 200 producers. And, the one takeaway, the one piece of advice, and one thing that I know I could have spent more time on was ensuring we had a back-end system, a solution that made it easier and quicker and better for us to be able to account to people more quickly, more readily, with more accuracy. And this, to this day, this data problem that the music industry has it still has some ways to go. And it's so much easier now to track usage, to track data, to track royalty accounting than it was when we started out. But having the system in place to ensure that our back end was as efficient as our front end licensing operation was hugely important. And having the right tools for growth, having the right reaction to scaling, growing a venture is massively important. From my personal experience, I would say ensure you have that mechanism, those mechanisms in place from the get-go, and that you're not responding in real time to change. It's a beautiful problem to have, as I mentioned before, responding in real time to change, but ensuring that you're covering yourself for every possible route and direction that your venture can take from the outset will go a long way in its overall efficiency.